It's the bye week, so it's time for a little self-scouting. We're talking Josh Allen special teams and examining the schedule ahead today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Wednesday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day. And as a reminder to you, we are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Well, folks, it is the bye week, which means an opportunity to get out of our rhythm a little bit on the podcast and do what NFL teams do during the bye week, and that includes self-scouting. And so today I'm going to talk about Josh Allen and some of his numbers this year. I want to talk about the special teams, and I want to look ahead at the schedule the rest of the way for the Buffalo Bills. Now, later this week, I'm going to be joined by different guests. Nate Geary from WGR, Greg Tomset from Cover One, Bruce Nolan from the Bruce Exclusive. And we're going to look at different components of the team and do some self-scouting together. But I want to kind of focus in today on the quarterback situation, special teams, and the schedule ahead. So let's start with Josh Allen. And I want to talk about Josh Allen through the lens that I would normally talk about an opposing quarterback to the Bills on the primer episode. So what you hear me say about Patrick Mahomes or whatever quarterback the Bills are playing that week, I want to look at Josh Allen through that same lens and find out what we can find out, right? So let's do that. Josh Allen, 6'5", 240 pounds, 26 years old, first-round pick in 2018, number 7 overall. He's been the Bills starter since week 2 in 2018, and the Bills have a 44-22 record with him as the starting quarterback. So far in 2022, Josh Allen is having by far his best statistical season. And I think the statistics match up with how well he's playing, right? Josh Allen is playing quarterback at the highest level of any player in the NFL. And these numbers are going to tell that story. So let's look at it. So far, Josh Allen is completing 66.9% of his passes. That is 8th in the NFL. He's averaging 330 passing yards per game. Number 1 in the NFL. That is a ton of production throwing the football. Number 1 in the NFL. 17 touchdown passes. Number 1 in the NFL. 4 interceptions. That's 15th in terms of volume, but I don't really care about volume stats. 1.7% of his throws are intercepted. That is 11th in the NFL. Josh Allen throws the ball more than pretty much every other quarterback, so of course, the volume of interceptions is going to sometimes feel a little bit high. And so that's why I'm a lot more interested in the percentage of throws that are intercepted. Josh Allen's passer rating is 109.9. That is second best in the NFL. And of course, when it comes to Josh Allen, you can't talk about his numbers without being mindful of his rushing numbers. So far through 6 games, 47 rushes, 252 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. I think it's interesting that of the 47 rushes, 23 are scrambles and 24 are called runs. And those called runs includes kneel downs. So I think the Bills are at a pretty healthy spot when it comes to the volume of called rushing attempts for Josh Allen, about 3 to 4 per game. And those are good plays for the Bills. You know that. You watch the games. You see how effective they are. So far, Ken Dorsey's done well to sprinkle those in appropriately. Looking into Josh Allen's 2022 metrics, his average time to throw is 2.64 seconds. That's 15th in the NFL, and it is by far the fastest of his career. Josh Allen is getting the football out of his hands faster than he's ever done so previously. In the past, he's typically hovered around 3 seconds. He's down to 2.64. That's significant. And he's right at a 50-50 split in terms of the percentage of time he gets it out of his hands in under 2.5 seconds and the amount of time he gets it out of his hands over 2.5 seconds. It's 50-50. When Josh Allen gets the ball out quick, under 2.5 seconds, he's completing 74% of his passes. That's 8th in the NFL. 6.6 yards per attempt, which is 10th in the NFL. And his passer rating is 112.8, which is 3rd in the NFL. When he gets it out over 2.5 seconds, when he holds on to a little bit, he completes 59% of his passes, so that does come down a little bit. But 10.6 yards per attempt, a massive jump there, right? So he's holding the ball and taking some shots down the field. So it's not as efficient of a target, but the reward in the additional yards is pretty significant. And oh, by the way, his passer rating when holding onto the ball for over 2.5 seconds is 105.4, which is 2nd in the NFL. So Josh Allen, whether he holds it or he gets it out quick, he's extremely, extremely productive. Josh Allen's average depth of target this year so far is 8.3 yards from the line of scrimmage. That's 14th in the NFL. 11.7% of Josh Allen's passing attempts are targeted 20 yards or more down the field. That's 18th in the NFL. So Josh Allen doesn't necessarily have a huge volume of passing attempts that are down the field over 20 yards compared to the rest of the league, but I think it's at a good spot. I think it's a number that reflects him processing defenses at a really high level, but also picking his spots with his deep shots, and he's extremely efficient this year on the deep ball. So far on throws that are targeted 20-plus down the field, Josh is 16 of 27 for 627 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. 627 passing yards on targets 20-plus down the field is the most in the NFL by a ton. Russell Wilson is number 2 at 510 yards. Carson Wentz is number 3 at 448. Again, Josh Allen, 627. There are only 7 quarterbacks above 300 yards in this category, 20-plus yards down the field in terms of targets. Josh Allen, 627. Remember when we used to have to talk about Josh Allen not being a good deep ball thrower? He's literally the best at it. Unbelievable growth in that area. He's a phenomenal deep ball thrower. Oh, by the way, his passer rating when targeting weapons 20-plus yards down the field, 127.7. Dude's off the charts. Play action happens on 24% of Josh Allen's dropbacks. That's 22nd in the NFL. I could stand to see that come up a little bit. When he does have play action, he's completing 71% of his passes, 9.4 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 127.3. That 127.3 passer rating is 2nd in the NFL. Oh, by the way, his passer rating without play action is 103.2, which is 2nd in the NFL. 7.7% of Josh Allen's passes are screen passes, 20th in the NFL. So the Bills aren't a big screen team, but they're not averse to it. And Josh Allen has a passer rating on screens of 113.5, which is 7th in the league. And he averages 6.2 yards per attempt, which is 10th. Let's talk about pressure splits as it relates to Josh Allen. And this is going to be fun because normally I get to this part of a quarterback conversation and I talk all about how if you want to make the quarterback worse, you got to get pressure on him. Well, you know the rules don't apply to Josh Allen, right? Josh Allen's been unbelievable under pressure this year. When he's kept clean, he's completing 71% of his passes, 8.1 yards per attempt, and a passer rating of 110. When he's under pressure, now his completion percentage does come down from 71% down to 53%, but his yards per attempt goes from 8.1 to 8.9 when he's under pressure, so it goes up, and his passer rating is 106.5 under pressure. So his passer rating goes down 3.5 points under pressure. Josh Allen has just been unbelievable under pressure this year. 106.5 passer rating and basically 9 yards per attempt when under pressure. How frustrating is that for defenses? I mean, could you imagine playing against Josh Allen? You can't be right. It doesn't matter what you do. He's that dude. 106.5 passer rating under pressure. Number one in the league. There's two quarterbacks in the 90s, and they're both Dolphins quarterbacks, Tua Tagovailoa and Teddy Bridgewater, and then nobody else is above a 90. Josh Allen, 106.5. Unbelievable. Oh, by the way, only 11% of the time that Josh Allen is pressured does he actually get sacked. So he's an unbelievable thrower when he's pressured, and he has a ton of great production. And also when you pressure him, 11% of the time he actually gets sacked. Unbelievable. Let's talk about blitz splits. 35% of the time so far this year, Josh Allen faces the blitz. And I think that's a respectable number. I think a quarterback like Josh Allen, you probably want to say that we prefer not to blitz, but with a player to his status and what he is in the league, I don't think you can sit there and say we're going to do any one thing. You want to throw the kitchen sink at him, right? Mix in the blitz, mix in everything, right? Show him different looks, different coverages, and try to figure out something. But Josh Allen, when he is not blitzed, completing 71% of his passes, 8.8 yards per attempt, 115.7 passer rating. When he is blitzed, he's completing 60% of his passes, so it dips 11%, 7.3 yards per attempt, so it goes down 1.5 yards. And his passer rating falls to 96.5, which is like 20 spots. And so I think this is one area that stands out to me as a spot where Josh can be a little better. And we're nitpicking here, folks. We're nitpicking big time. But I think Josh Allen against the blitz has mostly been really, really good. But I think this is a spot where they can get a little bit better. And I think it comes back to not so much Josh as it is deciding when to throw it hot against the blitz and when to keep guys in and have extra blockers and allow things to kind of play out. I think about the Miami game and the Kansas City game. Those were both games where Josh did some really, really good things against the blitz, but also there were some times where it felt like it affected him a little bit. I think there was a situation, if I'm not mistaken, against the Chiefs where he missed 7 consecutive throws or something like that when the Chiefs started to blitz a little bit. And then that number, they decided to stop throwing hot and choose to block instead. And then I think he completed like 8 in a row or something against the blitz. So I think it's less to do with Josh and his process as it is maybe as an offense deciding when to throw hot and when to block it up. A couple other numbers I want to mention as it relates to Josh Allen. Yards after catch, right? This has been a big talking point of mine for a number of years on this podcast. Right now, he's at 5.2 yards after catch per completion, which is 15th in the NFL. Middle of the pack, that's all I've ever asked for. That's all I've ever asked for. I just don't want to be the worst. I know stylistically who Josh Allen is as a player, the types of routes that he typically throws, they don't always open up a lot of yak opportunities. And that's why I've never sat here and said, I want him to be top 10. I just want him middle of the pack. And that's exactly where he's at right now. Drop percentage, 4.8%, 7th lowest in the league. The Bills receivers collectively are doing very well to catch the football. He has 12 batted passes so far this year. And I know that from a volume perspective, it might not be quite as bad, but that's the most in the NFL, tied with Baker Mayfield, of all people. 12. And we've talked about this in the pod. It's the average depth of target coming down. It's the average time to throw coming down. And it's also how defenses play Josh Allen with a lot of contained rush, which means, hey, get your hands up, right? It's going to lend itself. All those three variables are going to lend itself to having some more batted passes, but it's still a little bit high for my liking. And then the last thing I'll say about Josh Allen, he's only facing pressure. He's only under pressure on 12.5% of his dropbacks, best in the NFL. Bills' offensive line, Bills' pass protection has been simply outstanding so far through 6 games to start the 2022 season. As you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the largest professional network in the world of over 810 million people. Then add your job in the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so your network can help you find the right people to hire. LinkedIn has simple tools like screening questions to make it easier to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Bills Mafia, we all know what that sound is. It's the glorious sound of a table breaking in half from a body slam, and it's something Bills fans do best. Now listen to this. Do you know what that sound is? That's a chip. That's a chip breaking. Mid-dip in guacamole. Not so glorious. The thing is, some things are not meant to be broken. Some things are meant to be broken, like tables at tailgates. But chips and dips? Definitely not. That's exactly why the team at Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips set out to create a chip that can actually handle dips without breaking. Talk about game-changing. I love these chips. My wife and I, we have dips all the time. You name it. Artichoke dip, spinach dip, buffalo chicken dip. And we can always rely on Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips. I got a bag right here because I eat them all the time. And they don't break, right? They're sturdy, they're crunchy, they're delicious, they're perfectly seasoned, and they're made from organic Flint corn in upstate New York. You can find Zach's Mighty Tortilla Chips at all Wegmans locations in the chip aisle. Zach's Mighty, break tables, not chips. All right, let's shift our focus now to special teams. And there's some really good stuff going on with the Bills special teams. And I'm really excited to talk about it because every year I get asked questions about why are they paying Tywan Jones? And why are they bringing back Jake Kumaro? And why do they pay Saron Neal all that money to cover kicks? And what about Tyler Medikevich? Well, folks, let's talk about it. Because the reason the Bills are the best team in the NFL has something to do with how good they are on special teams. Let's look at some of these numbers so far this year. And I want to start with something I've been trying to hammer home all year long. And it is kick return average against. And I can't reiterate this enough. If you kick a touchback in the NFL, the opposition gets the ball at the 25-yard line. That's pretty far. The Bills understand that. The Bills understand that they can kick the ball and force a return and tackle them before the 25-yard line and make them start further back. They're not just willing to concede the 25. And I love that about this football team. Make it harder on you. No, you don't get 75 yards to the goal line. You get 70 or 65 or 60. The Bills so far this year are allowing an average of 16 yards per kick return. I'm not a math guy, but if he fields the ball at the goal line and returns it, that means the opposition starts at the 16 and not the 25. That's why you pay all those guys to run down and cover kicks. And the Bills have been phenomenal at covering kicks. Number one in the NFL. That's the best. 16 yards per kick return against. Oh, by the way, the Bills have faced the most kick returns in the NFL so far this season. So they've had the most opportunity, and they're holding teams to the fewest amount of yards. Sean McDermott says, no, you don't get the 25. We're not just giving you that. Try to return it and get and earn that 25. And guess what? On average, we're only allowing 16 yards. I love that about this team. It's not hidden yards. I always say this. People talk about it being hidden yards. It's not hidden yards. If you understand the game, it's right there in front of you. No, you don't get the 25. You get to the 20 or 15 or whatever it is. The Bills have had a lot of success, and I've tried to give a lot of examples of how this mattered. And one of them being against the Chiefs, where Harrison Butker missed a 51-yard field goal where that possession started at the 16 and not the 25. If it's 9 yards closer, that field goes in, and it's a different ballgame. It's a different situation moving forward. So I get fired up about this because I want people to care more about it. I really do. Don't take it for granted, this component of this Bills football team and how smart it is. And you can only do it if you have reliable guys to cover kicks. And the Bills do. 16 yards per kick return, number one in the league. And has faced the most kick returns. I'll move off that. Punt return average against the Bills, 4 yards, number two in the NFL. 4 yards, that's it. Number two in the NFL. Why do they pay Siran Neal? Why do they pay Taiwan Jones? Why do they pay Tyler Medevkevich? Well, here you go. They're not just going to concede yards. Someone's going to beat you. They're going to earn it. Returns for. The Bills are very average when it comes to return yardage for their team. Punt returns, 9.6 average, 13th in the NFL. Kick return average, 20.8 yards. That's 24th in the league. I will say there that the Bills have only returned 6 kicks this year. 6. So I don't know if that's a big enough sample size to really reflect upon, especially when we know that one of them is the Taiwan Jones return where he got to the 2. So I don't know that the sample size is big enough there for us to be concerned about it. I think Isaiah McKenzie's a good kick returner. And now obviously Khalil Shakir stepping into this punt return role, and hopefully he can remain average and handle the ball cleanly. My number one priority with punt and kick returns is ball security and decision-making. The yardage is just a bonus to me. I've been through this a lot. I just want the ball back to Josh Allen. I just want the ball back to 17. And I don't want to get a stop on defense or be expecting to get the ball on offense and have a ball handling or decision-making issue that makes it harder for them. So it's ball handling and decision-making at the top of my list, and then the bonus is any yards that you get. So I'm most satisfied that the ball handling's been good outside of what Taiwan Jones had, the one blunder. Field goals. Opponents are making 66.7% of their field goals against the Bills. That's 4th worst in the league. Opponents are 6 of 9 kicking field goals against the Bills so far this year. Tyler Bass is 9 of 11. That's 81.8%. He's had some misses. That number probably will get up to around 90% by the end of the year. And he's perfect on extra points, 21 to 21. As far as punting goes, Sam Martin, 12th in the league in net average. He's had 11 punts in 6 games. I am more than satisfied with Sam Martin. I think he's done a great job as the Bills punter. And then lastly, I just want to kind of highlight the core 4, the guys that play all 4 phases of special teams every game. So kick return, punt, and kick. Terrell Bernard, Jaquan Johnson, Reggie Gilliam, Siran Neal, Tyler Medevkevich, Taiwan Jones, Terrell Dotson. They have 7 guys that are core special teams guys that are on the field for basically every special team snap. You add a long snapper, and then, either the kicker or the punter or whatever, you can see how very specific the Bills are about the players that they have on their roster to really help on special teams. And I think the Bills special teams have been really, really outstanding this year, especially covering kicks and punts. I will shout out Balin Spector as well. He's been inactive a couple of games, but when he plays, he's a core 4 guy as well. So the Bills are in really good shape when it comes to their special teams, the guys that do it, how they're performing, and it's a big reason why I really believe in this football team. I know it's all about Josh Allen, right? And it's about this defense and how good it is. Well, let's give a little love to the special teams because they're in really good shape as well. And Matt Smiley in his first year as the special teams coordinator has done a really good job. And we should not dismiss that because the Bills tell us with their words and they tell us with their actions that they care about special teams. And so we're going to talk about special teams, and you should care about special teams as well. BetOnline.net is your number one source for football betting information this season. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your number one source for sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. So head to betonline.net or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. It's BetOnline, and it's where the game starts. I want to close out the podcast today by just quickly assessing the schedule ahead. This is the road, right? The road forward for the Bills to go on this Super Bowl run that we all are excited to see. But before we kind of look ahead, I want to kind of look back real quick and just acknowledge something that I feel like I've said a lot, but I think it matters. First of all, this is a year where the Bills play 9 road games and 8 home games. Well, 4 of the first 6 games this season have been on the road. That's a good amount, right? They've only had 2 home games. 4 road, 2 home. Which means that 6 of the last 11 are at home. Which is great. And so I'm excited to see how the schedule opens up here with more home games. And especially with what you have behind you being 5-1 at the bye and having wins over the Chiefs, wins over Baltimore, Tennessee, right? Those are teams that might win their division. And the Bills have the head-to-head tiebreaker already. So the Bills have done well to this point. Now, what that does mean is you have 11 games in a row coming out to close the regular season. And if you don't get the 1 seed, you don't get a first-round bye. And if you don't get a first-round bye, then you got to play 14 weeks in a row before the Super Bowl, assuming you get that far. And so I think with this early bye, it comes at a good time. I think we're all satisfied right now that the bye came when it came, right? Something that we didn't love when the schedule first came out. But now that you kind of see what's happened so far this year, you really feel good about what the team is going to be coming out of this from a health perspective. But this year is just critical to take it 1 week at a time and take care of your business and secure that home field and secure that bye because you got to be the 1 seed to get it. So coming out of the bye, the Bills have an interesting stretch of games. Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers, I'll be there. I'll announce some details at some point very soon once they're finalized and where you can come by and say hello. But that game, right, is looking pretty different right now compared to where you thought it might be this offseason, right? Packers have struggled. They've not been a good football team. They got to right the ship. They're reeling a little bit right now. You're bringing them to your place coming off the bye. Then you go to the Jets, and the Jets are 4-2, right? And they survived a little stretch there, 1-3 or 1-2 stretch to start the year with Joe Flacco as a quarterback. Zach Wilson's back, and they're winning some ball games mostly with defense and running the ball. But, credit to them. They're winning some ball games. We'll see what happens when they play the Bills, but that's a road game against the Jets. Then you have 2 in a row back-to-back at home, Minnesota and Cleveland. Minnesota's 4-2, 5-1, something like that. there's a lot to prove there, right? I think some people think they might be not quite as good as their record may indicate, but they're winning games. Cleveland, they've been a disaster on defense. They don't have Deshaun Watson yet. They won't have him for that game. Bringing them to your place, obviously they're going to challenge you with that rushing attack. Then you have back-to-back Thursday games, Thanksgiving at Detroit, and then at New England on Thursday night the following week. 2 at home in the Jets and the Dolphins. You get your revenge opportunity against the Dolphins in December. It'll be cold, I'm sure. You go to Chicago on Saturday. 2 Cincinnati, Monday Night Football. That's a team that's interesting. They're 4-2, and they've been in every game. They played a lot of tight ball games. But they didn't start as strong, and they didn't look as good as you would hope if you're Cincinnati coming into the year, the reigning AFC champions. But I think they're in a good position to kind of find their stride. And I think the Bengals that we'll see on January 2nd are different than the Bengals we've seen the first few weeks of the season. And you close out the season at home against the Patriots. And again, the Patriots are 3-3. They had a bad start. Mac Jones goes down. Bailey Zappi comes in, a 4th-round rookie, and probably has played better than Mac Jones to this point. And there's some whispers about a controversy there and some dissatisfaction, if that's a word, or not happiness from Mac Jones about kind of the situation there. So there's some rumblings. But in some ways, the schedule ahead looks easier than expected and also tougher than expected, right? Some of what we've seen from the Patriots and Jets, I guess. And then what we haven't seen from teams like the Packers and Browns. I guess you can lump in the Vikings as a game that maybe has more challenges than we initially anticipated. But I'll tell you this, Bills are going to be favored in every single one of these games. Every single one. If you're favored on the road against Kansas City, you're going to be favored against everybody. And so I'm not going to sit here and predict that the Bills win out, but they could. They could. But I just feel like it's so important for this team to take it 1 week at a time, stay focused, win ball games like you're supposed to, and get that 1 seed. So that way, not only do you get home field advantage, and oh, by the way, Sean McDermott 3-0 at home in the playoffs, 0-3 on the road in the playoffs. You want that home field advantage, but you also want that bye to give yourself a little bit of a rest before you gear up for really intense football. You know how Josh flipped the switch last year, coming from the regular season to the playoffs? Imagine what that's going to look like this year. Or maybe that switch is just always going to stay on based on the way he's played through 6 games. But obviously, I think the big takeaways from today that I want you to have is that Josh Allen is playing at an unbelievable level, the best football of his career. The deep ball has just been unreal. How he's been under pressure is unreal. The special teams for this football team have been phenomenal, and we should care a lot about it, especially how they're covering kicks and punts. And the schedule ahead has some challenges, but has some advantages, and it's important for this team to stay dialed in on a weekly basis, take care of your business, and get that 1 seed. You've done a really good job to this point of positioning yourself well with the tiebreakers that you have. But I don't think you want to put yourself in a position where you're playing 14 weeks in a row. Take care of your business, do what you're able to do, and we're going to have a lot of fun on this podcast talking about it. Appreciate you guys tuning in today. The rest of the week, like I said, we're going to get into some guest conversations, and that's going to carry us into Monday as well. We're going to get to Nate Geary to talk offense. Him and I are going to self-scout the Bills offense together. Defense with Bruce Nolan, big picture stuff with Greg Thompson. And then I'm also going to have a Saturday episode this week because I got to do prospects to watch, right? And I want to talk to Dr. Kyle Trimble about injury stuff, specifically Spencer Brown and anything else that he has on his notes as the Bills gear up for the rest of the season. So a lot coming here during the bye week, right? It's, the Bills players are off this week, but we're not. We're here for you every day, all year long. So make sure that you're subscribed. We'd love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.